Yo, what's going on?
Come on.
Dude, what are you doing?
Come on. Come on.
Come on.
You want to? I'll beat the f***ing piss out of you. Why don't you people get a job? What are you, a college student? You probably don't even go to college. He knows who.
I just won that.
You're the one. You take pictures of these assholes.
Hey.
What do you think, you're a tough guy? You don't know where I'm from. Okay, take a shot.
Listen, sir, it may look like we're the bad guys, we're the tough guys, but I'm wrong.
Anyone can bounce around on their toes like a dancer shouting at tougher-looking guys, but sooner or later, you're going to run into the wrong guy. And though this little idiot doesn't know it yet, he just avoided a painful trip to the hospital. We're about to spill the beans on the secret weaknesses of street thugs, straight from real fighters themselves. To kick things off, we have an absolutely perfect look at just how badly things can go for you if you overestimate your abilities, while totally disregarding your opponents. This street fighter seemed to think that he could just stroll into this gym and put his unpolished skills to the test against a guy who genuinely knew what he was doing. And sure enough, it didn't take long for the skill gap to become very clear. Multiple knockdowns followed, with each one more brutal than the last. The street fighter just didn't have the punching form, and he was totally unable to mask his intentions. The actual boxer was able to counter him so easily from the get-go, and eventually, he hit him so damn hard that he sent this total amateur crashing out of the ring. If that's not the perfect way to make your point, I don't know what is. Cocky amateurs getting shut down by veteran coaches is the name of the game for this video. And in this case, you can see right away just how far apart these guys are in terms of their talent levels. The movement from this cocky student is all wrong, and the first punch he eats on the chin should have been enough for him to realize that he's leaving his chin way too exposed. Unfortunately, the idea of being a little more defensively responsible never occurred to him, and he proceeded to run directly into yet another big shot. This time, one that sent him halfway across the ring due to its impact. Who knows what made him so confident in the first place, but man, we just love seeing guys like this get their slice of humble pie. What about you guys? Ever gotten absolutely schooled by a coach or gym mate in a way that had you questioning everything? Let us know in the comments section. So for this next one, the guy in the black t-shirt is a wannabe in his late 20s who came into this gym and started poking around looking for trouble. So the coach had a bright idea. Instead of getting his best guy to step in there and teach him some manners, he set him up for a fight with a 16-year-old future pro. And trust me, this was the perfect move. The lesson this cocky guy learned started from the get-go. He just couldn't keep up with the footwork, the feints, and overall movement. And when things really started to go downhill, his gas tank showed it. Eventually, the teenage boxer was able to knock him down with a body shot that was pretty much the end of this little experiment. You can act tough all you like, but there's no substitute for genuine talent, and this kid had it. This one is all kinds of nasty. It's one thing getting a slice of well-deserved humble pie and accepting it, but this guy resorted to the dirtiest tactics imaginable. But let's back up first. The shirtless guy was basically bullying his way around the gym, despite being pretty terrible at MMA. And so when he accepted the challenge of a legit mixed martial artist, it came as no surprise when he got absolutely dominated. But here's the thing. When he found himself in a bout-ending guillotine, he tried to gouge out his opponent's eyes, which is probably the biggest no-no you could ever attempt. And so his opponent decided to choke him unconscious, and then in his rage at nearly getting blinded, proceeded to give him one final punch while he was out. It was an ugly shot, sure, but can you really blame him? The dude could have lost his eyesight after something like that. Dirty tactics have no place in this sport. This dude signed up for a battle that he was just not prepared for at all. The guy in the purple and gold headgear was one of the best fighters in this gym. This idiot decided that he was up to the challenge of going for a hard spar with him. And, well, to put it plainly, this was just about as one-sided a beating as you're ever likely to see. This guy just didn't have a hope in hell. His far more experienced and talented opponent was able to put a pace on him immediately, and the only thing that kept him on his feet was the protective guard he was wearing on his head. Cockiness can get a man into a really tricky situation very quickly, and the only way these guys ever learn their lessons is through eating a few dozen solid punches directly to the face. Yeah, that ought to do it. Some of these kung fu masters are just a different level of deluded. There's no other way to say it. This guy got in there with an MMA fighter and watched his entire life's worth of training fall in an instant. It didn't matter that he had the size advantage. His kung fu was rendered totally ineffective as soon as the mixed martial artist closed the distance. Once the clinch was in play, it was a simple matter of getting him off balance, dropping him to the floor, and then this fight was pretty much finished. If you don't know BJJ, you're going to realize very, very quickly just how limited your approach to fighting actually is. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this dude signed up for a mixed martial arts gym shortly after this total embarrassment. This one is a real personal favorite. The classic example of an extremely cocky showboater who learns just how far behind the pack he actually is. Because if you're getting beaten by a 14-year-old, your bragging days are done. And while sure, his flashy movements seemed to be working at first, it didn't take long for this teenager to find his moment. But here's the crazy part. Like most cowards who talk a big game, this douchebag tried to quit on the sparring session after realizing he was out of his depth. And he wouldn't even acknowledge his failure, making excuses immediately. Sometimes the delusion just runs way too deep, and he probably woke up the next morning and totally blocked this painful memory out entirely, learning zero lessons from what could have been a pretty positive experience. Some people are just totally incapable of growth, unfortunately. What's this? Charlie Zelenov competing in an actual sanctioned bout? Well, if you know anything about Charlie Z, you'll know that his game usually involves calling out legit boxers, showing up to their gyms to antagonize them, and then pretending he won regardless of the result. In this case, he had nowhere to run and no excuses to hide behind, and it was a beautiful sight. His opponent well and truly beat the brakes off him. Charlie's punching form could best be described as extremely awkward looking, and though this was no world champion he was facing, he ended up getting tagged with the type of shots that any low-level fighter would have seen coming. This was one-way traffic, pretty much. And after a few exchanges, he eventually got the TKO and hoisted some random belt up over his shoulder, leaving Charlie with absolutely no choice but to accept the fact that he actually lost this one. Although, if we had to guess, he's probably still in denial. Having muscles is all well and good if you're strutting your stuff on the beach. But if you step into a BJJ gym and try to mess with a legitimately skilled opponent, good luck avoiding a dose of instant karma. This dude had no idea what he had signed up for, and all the muscles in the world couldn't save him from getting ragdolled by his opponent here. And the BJJ fighter made sure to throw a few slaps in just to really hammer home the point. He had this total novice wrapped up in a web that he just couldn't escape from, and in the end, was sure that his ego was bruised pretty badly when all was said and done. And finally, we come to the classic example of a wannabe tough guy who seems to get some odd satisfaction out of beating up younger fighters who would never have a hope in hell of getting the better of him. And so in stepped this coach to make his total lack of fighting skill painfully clear. Have you ever experienced a renegade gym bully like this who really needed to learn a thing or two about humility? Be sure to let us know in the comments section below.